There is this moment. You may have felt it once, just at the edge of your awareness, right between what happened to you and what you did next. It's a fraction of a second, and sometimes even less than that. In that moment, something is possible that isn't possible anywhere else. Most of us have spent a lifetime moving too quickly to even feel it. And most of us were told that if we simply paid closer attention, it would open. Today, we slow down enough to find it. Welcome to Patterns to Purpose. Wherever you are right now, in your bed, on the couch, in a quiet room with the door closed, I want you to know that for the next few minutes, you don't have to be anyone. Not the mother, not the spouse, not the woman who holds it all together. Just you. Take a breath with me, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Good. Most of us have spent most of our lives at the speed of reaction. Something happens, a tone of voice we know too well, a text that lands in the chest like a stone, or a silence that is exactly the old silence. And before we've taken our next breath, we're already inside it, defending, withdrawing, shrinking, performing. We are not making choices in those moments. We are running programs. Programs written long ago by a younger version of you, doing the best she could in a world that didn't always feel safe. She learned with great precision what kept her loved and what kept her okay. And she built patterns all around it. And it's not because she was weak, and it wasn't because she was flawed. It was because she was brilliant. The problem isn't the patterns. The problem is that we're still running them at 50, at 60, at 75, long after the version of us who needed them grew up and moved on. A pattern is answering a question that the present is no longer asking. It looks like 6 in the morning in your own kitchen and nobody needing anything yet, and you already are tired in a way sleep didn't touch. It looks like sitting in a parking lot with the engine off, gathering yourself before you can walk in to people who love you and calling that nothing. It looks like saying I'm fine and meaning it in the way a door means it when it closes. The girl who wrote those programs isn't the woman you are now, but she's still driving. And the only way to gently put your own hands on the wheel is to see clearly and compassionately and without shame what has been steering you. The question isn't, how do I stop reacting? The question is, how do I see what I'm reacting from? And the answer I wish someone had whispered to me 30 years ago. You name it. And now I have to be careful with you here because for years I said that sentence and stopped right there. Something does happen when you name what is flooding us. The flooding begins to quiet, not because the feeling disappears, because naming creates distance. Not the cold distance of shutting down, it's the clear witnessing distance of being able to see something rather than be it. There is a difference between angry and noticing that anger is present. There is a difference between afraid and observing that fear has arrived. There is a difference between running a pattern and watching the pattern run. That difference is real and you must have it. But here is what I didn't understand for years. Recognition opens a door, but it does not walk you through it. Because what you have named is just the symptom. I'm exhausted all the time. I keep choosing this kind of person. Those are true, and each one is the smoke, not the fire. Surface reactions are symptoms. The root truth is the origin. A woman can manage a symptom for 30 years, call it coping, and stay tired in a way no vacation has ever fixed. Because until the pattern is named at the root, it doesn't feel like a pattern at all. It feels personal. It feels permanent. It feels like personality, like fate, like just the way I am. There are women who can describe their pattern with real precision. They can tell you she is a people pleaser, when it started, who taught it to her, and nothing changes. She knows about her pattern. She does not yet know what it is protecting. Knowing about your pattern is knowing its behavior, what it does, when it shows up, what it costs you. Knowing what it protects is knowing its reason. What it has stood guard over all this time, faithfully, without ever once being relieved of duty. Every pattern is protecting something. It was not installed to sabotage you. It was built by a girl who needed something guarded, and it kept doing that job long after the danger passed. So, how do you get from the symptom to the origin? Well, you follow the why. In the Patterns to Purpose method, there is a way of asking what goes beneath the first answer. It's not an interrogation and it's not self-criticism. You are not putting yourself on trial. It is structured curiosity, the practice of following a thread until you arrive somewhere true. At the end of that thread is a belief. That's what we call the root truth. Beneath every pattern you have run is a sentence about yourself you have never said out loud. It has simply been operating unseen the way a foundation holds up a house. And it does not sound like a description of your life. It sounds like a description of you. It really begins with because. It begins with I believe, or I have learned, or I have equated. Let me take you down a little way. We begin with something small, ordinary, and not a crisis. The surface statement is this: I said yes to hosting again, and I didn't want to. Why did I say yes? Because it was easier than the conversation a no would have started. Now, stay with me. That sounds like an answer. Most of us would stop there and go make dinner. But there's more. Why would that conversation be hard? Because I could already hear the disappointment in her voice before I even opened my mouth. Do you feel that? 2 questions in, and we have left the dinner party entirely. We are standing somewhere much older. And there is a next question. You can probably feel it waiting. Why does her disappointment matter that much? And notice that you did not need a moment. Something in you already knows the shape of that answer, even if it was never once had a word. When she finally let herself answer, here's what she found. I have learned that I am welcome in a room to the degree that I make things easier for the people in it. I have equated being needed with being loved. That is the root truth. And notice what it is not. It is not a diagnosis. It is not a flaw. It is not something that is wrong with her. It is a sentence of a young woman who learned in a house where it was accurate, and then she carried it faithfully into 40 years where it was not. She was never broken. She was patterned. Now, here's where I stop tonight. Not because the thread ends there, because what comes next, what a woman actually does once she is holding a sentence like that, is not work you do in a hurry, alone in the car with the turn signal on. That is the place where I sit down with a woman, where there is time and quiet, and someone who won't let her take the easy exit, and also won't push her past what she is ready to see. Tonight, I only want you to know that the thread goes somewhere, that underneath the thing you've been calling your personality, there is a sentence, and it can be found. Here's what it's like when she arrives. It's not dramatic, no collapse, no storm, nothing cinematic at all. It's steady, it's quiet. There is usually a long exhale. And then she says simply, I suppose I always knew that. Yes, you knew. You had simply never said it in a sentence. And it doesn't feel like an accusation. Root truth is a recognition, not a condemnation. You are not confessing a flaw. You are finding an instruction a much younger you wrote down in good faith. Read it out loud for the first time in 50 years. Here's the part I want you to have, because a reasonable woman asks the obvious questions. Why would saying a sentence change anything? The past is still the past. Nobody's mother comes back and does it differently. The answer is not a psychological trick. It's something the body does. An unnamed pattern keeps you on duty. Something in you registers a danger it can't locate. And a danger you cannot locate is one you have to keep watching for. So the system stays up, scanning the room, reading the tone, bracing against a thing you could not describe if someone asked. That is not fragility. That is intelligence doing exactly what it was built to do with incomplete information. And it is expensive. It shows up as a woman tired at 11 in the morning, as shoulders that live an inch higher than they need to, as a low hum underneath a perfectly good day that has been there since you were 9. You cannot stand down from a post when nobody has ever told you what you are guarding. Reaching the why is what completes the information. When the belief underneath the pattern is finally named, your body learns what it has been guarding. And the thing with the name can be held up against your actual life and measured. That is the moment discernment becomes possible. Only now can you ask the question that changes everything. Is this reaction based on my present reality, or is it based on an old pattern? And only now can you get the answer, because now there is something to compare. Then the watching can stop, not because you decided to relax. You have tried that. It stops because the danger has been identified, looked at, and found to be over. Your body doesn't settle because you told it to. It settles when it finally knows that it was what it was guarding. And it's not because the past changed, because it finally has a name. And a named thing can be looked at and looked at. It can be seen for what it is: old, faithful, but no longer accurate. And when a body stands down, it is quieter than women expect. You are simply somewhere ordinary, at the sink, in the car, and something you carried so long you had stopped calling it weight is not there. Which means the space between what happens and what you do next is not only a psychological opening, it is what the body does when it no longer needs to stay ready. And this is why noticing alone never produced that pause for you. Noticing named the symptom, and you were never bracing against the symptoms. You were bracing against the belief. Awareness creates space. Inquiry creates clarity. You need both in that order, and most of us were handed only the first and then quietly blamed for not being free yet. A word about this space because the word itself can mislead. I don't mean permanent calm. I don't mean you will never again be surprised by the old feeling rising like a tide. The space is much smaller than that and much more real. Sometimes it's a single second, a caught breath, a flicker of recognition. Oh, I know that feeling. And I know where it comes from. Women ask me what actually changes once their belief underneath has been reached. What changes is small and it's everywhere. She says no on a Tuesday and doesn't spend Wednesday defending it inside her own head. Someone she loves says something careless and it lands and then passes through her instead of taking up residence. None of that is technique. That is fruit. You do not manufacture fruit. It arrives because something underneath was finally told the truth. The naming does not move the pattern. It moves its authority. The pattern will probably arrive again tomorrow, but it arrives as a visitor with a name and no longer as the truth about who you are. Over the next 4 episodes, we explore something quietly astonishing. When the belief underneath the name and the old program loses their grip, the effects move through all 4 of your bodies, not as theory, but as something happening to you. Each body is a lens, not a category. 4 windows into the same house. The mental body, your inner narrator, who has run commentary on your life for decades, much of it unkind. This is where the root truth lives. Its question, what story am I telling myself? The emotional body, the one who learned to contain it all so nothing would spill, its question is, what am I actually feeling, separate from what I'm thinking? Because emotions are signals, they're not directives. The physical body, the one bracing and carrying for so long, who reveals misalignment before the mind will admit it, its question is, where does this pattern show up in my rest, my rhythm, my shoulders? And the spiritual body, the quietest part of you, the one that has waited beneath all the noise, that unsettled feeling when something doesn't align, even though everything looks fine. That's not anxiety without cause. That is your spiritual body speaking. These 4 episodes are a gift I want to give you, so stay with me for them. One thing to carry with you. It's not a task or homework, nothing to complete, and it's nothing to get right. Think of one pattern you already know about. Take the one that's been standing in the middle of the room for years. The way you go quiet when conflict enters, or the way you work harder than anyone should, and just to feel like enough. Here's all I'm asking this week. Sit with the awareness that it is protecting something. That's it. That's the whole invitation. Don't chase it. Don't decide tonight what the answer must be, because the answer that arrives in the first 10 seconds is the rehearsed one. Let the question stay open. Most of us close a question quickly because an open one feels like a loose thread. But closing a question gives you relief. It does not give you the truth. You have spent a very long time being certain about yourself. See what happens if you are curious about yourself instead. Open questions is a door held open. And a door held open is how everything gets to come home. You are not your patterns. You are the woman learning to see them and then to understand them. Seeing is where it begins, and understanding is where it turns. The space between stimulus and response has always been there. You didn't lose it. You never had to earn it. It has been waiting underneath a belief you never said out loud. And here is the quieter thing. When you finally find the belief, you will not find a villain. You will find a girl who made a reasonable decision with the information she had. She wasn't wrong. She was early. She kept you safe with it for 50 years, and she has never once been thanked. Your pattern was never your enemy. So many of us have spent decades at war with the very thing that carried us here. There is no part of you that has to be defeated for you to be free. So when you name it the way you would name something you love. You are not broken. You are patterned. You are not behind. You are not too late. You are exactly at the place where something real begins. May you begin to notice the moment between. May you find the courage to wonder what lives underneath it, and the patience not to answer too quickly. May you give yourself permission to pause there, even just once, even if it's messy the first time. You may be tender with the girl who built what has been carrying you. You may trust that in the understanding, something is already settling, even when you cannot see it yet. You are not your reactions. You never were. You are the woman who gets to choose what comes next. And that is the beginning of your return. Rest well tonight. I'll see you in the next episode.